Leave it in. Placerville. Green Room Social Club. How the hell are you guys? Welcome. Welcome to the show. My name's Jesse Rivera. I am what they call the opener, the host, the MC. You guys get to hear my stories for about 15 minutes, and then we're gonna bring up a couple other comics. How's that sound? You guys have ready for a good time? Yeah. All right. All right. We're funnier the more you drink, so just keep drinking. But don't drink enough that you feel that like I'm just as funny as these guys. No, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy or that girl. The girls are worse because like a guy, like I'll fight you, but like a girl, what am I gonna do? You know? So I'm just kidding. I won't fight you at all. I'll run. I haven't ran since the 7th grade. I'm lying. Yeah. How you guys doing tonight? Good? Good. All right. All right. Just real quick question. Anybody here smoke weed? Any weed smokers here? Oh, okay. It's funny with weed because like, okay, tell me, are you like me? Because like, I smoke weed to help me with my anxiety. But I get hella anxiety whenever I smoke weed. Does that happen to anyone else? Because it happens to me all the time. And then like, I'll try to calm myself down by watching YouTube videos. My YouTube algorithm, guys, it's fucked, okay? So the first thing that'll always pop up is like, most disturbing things caught on door cam footage. Oh my God, right? Or like, you know, the door cams, yeah, and there's like freaky stuff, like people knocking on people's doors. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to deal with that. So then I'll forward to like, scariest camping encounters. First of all, who the fuck still goes camping? Man, fuck that. Like, I am a modern person. I do not want to go not modern. Like I freak out if the Wi-Fi goes out. If the Wi-Fi goes out, I'm like, they took down the grid. And by they, I mean China, okay? And thanks a lot, TikTokers. Just let them in the back door, you know? I was watching this conspiracy theory video the other day, and they were talking about like, do we live in a simulation, right? Like, is the Matrix real? And scientists, like, they can't prove that we're not living in a simulation. They also can't prove that we are living in a simulation. So it's like, what is it, you know? And so my high-thinking self, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I think I could figure it out if we're living in a simulation or not, you know? So it was Saturday afternoon, and I live down in Sacramento, down in the flatlands, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go see if I could figure out whether or not the simulation is real or not. So I decided to go to the farmer's market, you know, because like I was like, there's got to be a lot of people around for me to figure out if the simulation is real or not. And I was walking around the farmer's market, and you guys, I was getting really suspicious because, look, I'm not a small guy, and like nobody was bumping into me. And I was like, how's nobody bumping into me? Like, this simulation, we're obviously in a simulation, you know? And I was kind of convinced, and then I was pretty sure that like a drone was following me. And I was like, well, maybe that's part of the simulation, you know? And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna have to test it myself. Like, I'll test it right now to see if it's real. So a lady and it's almost like this lady right here, a lady with a really pretty lady with a dog was walking towards me, and I was like, okay, they're part of the simulation. This isn't real. So as soon as like we're walking, and as soon as we got to where we were gonna pass each other, I just turned and I went, ah! And we're not living in simulation. It was real. She got so scared that she farted. That primal defense, get away from me, that kicks in. That kicks in, and the dog peed on my shoe. And they asked me to never return to the farmer's market again. So for now, I'm going to say that we're not living in a simulation, that this is real. But yeah, that happened to me. So I live in Sacramento. I didn't grow up in Sacramento, though. I grew up in a small town, not too small, about 300 miles south. I grew up in a town called Bakersfield, California. Anybody ever heard of it, Bakersfield? Wow, you guys sound like you got burned on a meth deal. Jesus Christ. You guys fucking hate Bakersfield. Well, I don't live there anymore, okay? I got out. I escaped. But Bakersfield's a really interesting town because, look, there's not like race riots per se in Bakersfield, but in Bakersfield, Kern County, you're not encouraged to like date outside of your race. Like the blacks stay with the blacks, whites with whites, Mexicans with Mexicans. That's just the way it is. But look, I'm Mexican. If you guys hadn't figured that out yet, I'm Mexican, but I'm also the youngest of 7 children. No Mexican girl is going to date the youngest of 6 children. No Mexican girl in her right mind is going to date me because they know they don't want to fuck with the baby. No. And so when I started dating, like, junior, senior year in high school, no Mexican girl wanted to date me. So I was forced to date white girls. And look, you guys, I realized real quick, being Mexican, being brown, my name being Jesus, I was perfect for the white girl that wanted to make her family mad. Just not that mad, And so I started dating this girl. Her name was Christine, and she was really cool. And she started like introducing me to like white culture. And I was like, what do you guys do on the weekends, And she was like, well, we could go to the Renaissance Fair. So what the fuck is that? She's like, we reenact 300 years ago. And I'm like, is this safe? Because it's barely safe for me here now. You want me to go into the past, And she's like, no, it's safe. And I was like, well, let's try something else. And she was like, you want to go to the river? You want to go to the river? And I was like, oh, Mexicans don't like rivers. No. And she was all, what are you talking about? And I'm all, every Mexican family has a trauma story that started in a river. And she was just like clueless. She was like, I don't get it. What are you talking about? And I was like, we don't like getting our backs wet. And she was all, oh, my grandpa says that about you guys all the time. And I was like, yo, fuck your grandpa. And I was all, tell you what though, I've never been to the beach. You want to take me to the beach? I've never been to the beach. And she was like, all right, cool, let's go to the beach. But she was driving, like I didn't drive yet, So she agreed to drive us to the beach. It's about an hour and a half away. But I was a senior in high school, and I was one of those 17-year-old seniors and a mama's boy. So I had to ask my mom for permission to go to the beach with Christine. And it was really awkward because I was like, hey, mama, I'm gonna go to the beach this weekend with a friend. And she was like, a friend who? And I tried to be cool about it. I was like, Chris? And she was like, Christine, the white girl? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you know how I feel about you dating white girls? I'm like, Mom, no Mexican girl's going to date me. And she's all, fine, go. But I'm against it, but you're going to do it, so go. So I was like, all right, fine, I'm going. So we're driving to the beach. It's about an hour and a half drive, and we're about 15 minutes out. And Christine looks at me, and she was like, hey, aren't you going to put any sunscreen on? Right? I was like, sunscreen? What do I need sunscreen for? And she's like, sunburn. We're going to stop at Walmart, and you're going to need some sunscreen right now. And I'm like, does Medi-Cal cover that? I don't have a prescription. And she's like, no, you're going to get some sunscreen. And I was like, no, I don't want any. And she insisted. She's like, go in there and buy some sunscreen. And out of nowhere, you guys, like out of nowhere, I was like, look, I'm not going to get any fucking sunscreen. And I got mad. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I couldn't believe that I talked to her like I liked her. And I couldn't believe that I talked to her like that. And I realized, I was thinking, oh, this is what the people in my family call machismo. The machismo was coming out in me. And I think so Mexicans call it machismo. White people call it misogyny. Yeah. You guys, my therapist explained to me it's actually called narcissism. And so I was like, no, I'm not putting any fucking sunscreen on. So we go to the beach, and I got the worst sunburn ever recorded in the history of time. You guys are applauding like I deserved it. Yeah. And so I remember calling my mom from the beach, and I was terrified because like I itched and I burned. I'm like, you guys know what it feels like. Somebody's probably sunburned right now. And I remember calling my mom from the beach. I was like, Mom, I got what they call a sunburn. I don't know what to do. And my mom was like, the soap opera's on. Call me later. And she just hung up. And we drove home. And like, I remember like, I was terrified coming home. And like, I was like, what am I going to tell? I was like, how long does this last? Like, I got senior pictures next week. What am I going to do? Like, does my hair fall out next? I don't know. And I remember I walked into the house, and my mom and my grandma were in the kitchen. And I remember they turned and they looked at me, and my mom went, ay, Dios mío. That means, oh my God, in Spanish. She goes, ay, Dios mío. And I'm all, Mom, it's called a sunburn. And she's like, oh, what are you going to do? Do you need to go to the doctor? I was like, I don't know, Mom. What do I do? Can you cure it with one of your little home remedies? And she's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, Mom, you're my mom. You fix everything. And then my mom was like, look, you're the one dating white girls, bringing their diseases back into my home. And my grandma was in the back, and she was all bruja, and she tried rubbing an egg over it, but that didn't work either. That didn't work either. But I survived. I survived. I still date. I still do a lot of dating, and I still mostly date white girls because that's where I settled. That's just where I landed. That's the league I landed in, you know. And I was on I'm on the apps. I'm on the Tinder, and a few weeks ago I matched with this girl on Tinder, and I don't know if she's smart or anything. Like she had big tits, okay? Like that's why I swiped. I was after those titties, right? And so we matched on Tinder, and we sent each other a bunch of text messages. We kind of have an idea of what we kind of want out of the night, and so we go to dinner, and we're making small talk at dinner, and she's like, "Hey, excuse me, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick." And I'm like, "Yeah, go for it." And so while she's in the bathroom, they brought our food out. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna be a gentleman. I'm gonna text her, let her know the food's here so she can come out while it's nice and warm, you know? Because she's probably in the bathroom just scrolling, texting. He's cute. I'm gonna fuck him, you know? And so I sent her a text. And when I sent the text to tell her the food was there, I realized that she didn't have her phone. Her phone was on the table, like right in front of me. And I happened to look down because I'm nosy. And my contact, like she had me saved in her contacts, it said Jesse, Tinder, Mexican. But then there was an asterisk after the Mexican. And I was like, what the fuck's the asterisk for? You know, I'm like, what exception is she gonna make, you know? And I started thinking, I was like, then I told myself, because like I'm an Virgo, I overthink everything, you know? And I thought to myself, you know what, I'm overthinking this. And right when I had convinced myself that I was overthinking it, like 3 more text messages came in. Said like, Richard, black, plenty of fish, no asterisk, right? Eric, white, okay Cupid, no asterisk. And I was like, oh, it's because I'm fucking Mexican. Fuck this bitch, you know? And I was like, and I thought to myself, you know what? I don't know. I don't feel good about this. And then another text came in, and I didn't really care what this text came in because I noticed something else. Her phone was at 4% battery life. What kind of irresponsible monster goes out on the town at 4% battery life, you know? And I thought to myself, I can't be with this person, you know? I kind of, like, I'm at a point in my life where I want to settle down. I might want kids. She's going to forget to feed our kids. I can't do this, you know? So I tell myself, okay, when she comes out of the bathroom, I'm just gonna tell her that, hey, work, text me, I'm gonna have to work early tomorrow morning, I'll pay for dinner and we'll call it a night, you know? So she's walking to the table out of the bathroom, and those titties were just bouncing, you guys. The titties were just bouncing. And I was like, Jesse, don't be scared, take a chance. So she sits down and we have dinner. Dinner's over, and she's like, you want to go back to your place? And I was like, game on, right? So I was like, sure. But we took separate cars, so I gave her my address, and we go back to my place. We're on the couch. We start making out. It's getting hot and heavy, and it's like right at the point where I'm like, I think, should I just nudge her towards the bedroom? Like that part's always weird for me, you know? And so like, and then she stops me, and I was all, everything okay? And she was like, I just want to go to the bathroom real quick. And I was like, game on, because you know what that means, you know. She's in the bathroom, so she goes to the bathroom. I know she's in there just giving it one last clean real quick. And while she was in the bathroom, like her phone was just vibrating. Her phone was on the coffee table, and it was just vibrating. Just like dudes were texting her left and right, like Bill, plenty of fish, white, no asterisk, right? Jeremy, black, okay Cupid, no asterisk. Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, Mike. Yeah, all of New Edition texted her. None of them had an asterisk. Bobby had a red flag. I'll be fair. Bobby had a red flag. And so I think to myself, I don't know. And then like 2 more texts come in, and then I noticed something else. Her phone was now at 1% battery life. What the fuck, dude? It was a 20-minute drive from the restaurant back to my house. And she didn't think to charge her phone? Fuck that. I can't. No, there's no way. There's no way. She's probably not on birth control. Like, there's all kinds of things that are probably wrong. So I tell myself, you know what? When she comes out of the bathroom, I'm just gonna go with that whole I gotta work story, and we'll call it a night. She came out of the bathroom, no shirt on, dude. Titties were just bouncing left and right. And I thought to myself, don't be scared, Jesse. Just go for it, So we go into my bedroom. We're having ourselves a great time. We're just doing all the fun stuff. And remember, she had these big tits, right? Something crazy happened, you guys. She did this move on me where she took my head and she smashed it between her two tits, and then she wrapped them over my head like two pillows. And she was just like, and she's like, you like that? And I was like, yeah. She's like elbowing me on the head, And then something crazy happened, you guys. Okay, look, this nostril got pressed up against the boob, and then a nipple went up into this other knot like that. And for a split second, you guys, I couldn't breathe. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna fucking die right here tonight underneath these titties. And I was like, then I started overthinking. I was like, what the fuck's gonna happen if I die? Is she just gonna finish Weekend at Bernie's style? What is she gonna do? I was like, she can't call for help. Her phone's dead by now, obviously. And I didn't die. Thank God, because I'm here to tell this survivor story. You guys. And so I didn't die, but afterwards we were laying there, and in my brain I was like, what the fuck is the asterisk for? I really still wanted to know what the hell don't you guys want to know what the asterisk was for? Do you? I do. I still wanted to know. So, we're laying there, and I'm like, okay, I think I could pretty much ask this girl anything at this point, And so I turned and I was like, hey, now that we're done. And she was like, oh, we're not done. And I was like, oh. And she's like, I'll be right back. And she went to the bathroom again, right? But on her way to the bathroom, she grabbed her bag, And she was in the bathroom, and I could hear her because I have a really small house because I'm poor. And so I could hear her in the bathroom, and I could hear zippers and Velcro, and I could hear all kinds. There was a lot of action going on in the bathroom. And I was like, I'm just going to ask her. I was like, hey, Crystal. Her name was Crystal. I was like, hey, Crystal. And she's like, yeah. And I was still in my bedroom, and she was in the bathroom. And I was like, hey, I noticed that you had me saved in your contacts. There was an asterisk after my name. Probably doesn't mean anything, right? It's just fun. It's an accident. And she was like, oh, no, that's on purpose. And I was like, oh. And I was like, what did the asterisk mean? And she was like, what do you think it meant? And I was like, did it mean we were going to fuck? And she was like, kind of. And I was like, well, what did it mean? And she was like, well, and at that point, I heard the toilet flush, and I heard her start walking back towards my bedroom. And she was like, it's kind of like a play on words. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, it stands for ass trick. And I said, ass trick? And she walked back into my bedroom. She was still naked, but now she had a strap on that came down to her knees. And I was like, oh, ass trick. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to peg you now. And I was like, don't be scared, Jesse. Just give it a chance. Just give it one chance. And we've been dating for the last 2 or 3 months. It's been going great. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's her. It just depends, and it's really, you just got to breathe easy. Just take deep breaths. And what are you going to do, Can I tell you guys a story about the luckiest night of my life? Not that night. There's actually a luck. You guys are like, it got better than that? No. I want to tell you guys a story. This actually took place in the past. 1991, Bakersfield, California. And I got to preface this story with 1991, Bakersfield, California. 2 huge things you need to remember about this story. Weed was still not legal, right? And there was no cell phones, okay? Bakersfield, 1991. Weed isn't legal, no cell phones. But because I'm Mexican, we used to call them border brothers, like the paisas, like the Mexicans that smuggle the weed in from Mexico into California to sell it. I knew a couple of those dudes, and they were really cool to me, and they would always give me an ounce or 2 of weed just because they liked me. And I would take that ounce or two of weed, and I would sell joints. I would sell nickel bags, dime bags. I had this small weed enterprise going, you know. I knew where to get a little bit of weed. But you guys, there was like a weed drought that summer. Or actually, it was St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day, 1991. It was the spring. And my buddy Greg calls me, and he's like, hey, Jesse, I heard you're a guy that knows where to get some weed. And I was like, yeah, I can get you some weed. And I knew Greg. Like, Greg's dad was a doctor. So he always had, like, we didn't really like him, but his dad was a doctor. Like, so he always had Coke and Xanax. So we kept Greg around, you know. And so I was like, yeah, Greg, how much you need? I was like, Greg's probably going to want an ounce, you know. I was like, I'm going to make $30 tonight. And Greg was like, I need a pound. And I was like, I could do that. So I paged my friend, and he called me back, and he's like, yeah, I can get you a pound of weed. It's $900, and I need you to meet me at O'Malley's in East Bakersfield. And I'm like, why O'Malley's in East Bakersfield? And he's like, because it's St. Patrick's Day. It's the perfect cover for a drug deal. There's going to be hundreds of people. No one's going to notice 3 people doing a drug deal in the parking lot. And I was like, you know what? That's a great idea, you know? So I called Greg up, and I'm all, hey, Greg, I can get you a pound of weed. It's $1,000, and we're going to do it tonight. And he's like, all right, perfect. And I was like, all right, I'll come to your house. So I go to Greg's house, and Greg's like, how's this going to work? And I'm like, give me your $1,000. I'll go get the weed. I'll be back in about an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. And Greg's like, Jesse, there's no fucking way I'm letting you out of my house with my $1,000 and waiting for you for a pound of weed. I'm going with you. And I was like, oh, Greg, that's not a good idea. And he's all, why not? And I was like, this is like Bakersfield. Like I said, the races don't mix in Bakersfield, right? And it was like 1991. It was like after Vanilla Ice, but before Eminem. Like, white dudes weren't cool yet, you know? Like, they hadn't reached that. But he insisted on going, you know? And I was like, all right. So he goes with me, and we meet up at O'Malley's, and it's just like the paisa said. There's hundreds of people there. There's cars everywhere. Like, no one even notices us in the parking lot, you know? And me and Greg are sitting there waiting, and the paisa pulls up in his big old truck. It's all bumping, bum, 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 playing the music, you know? And he gets out of his car, and me and Greg meet him in front of Greg's car. And I remember, I'll never forget, because he was pissed that I didn't show up by myself, you know? And he looks at me, and he looks at Greg. He's all, who's the white dude? And I'm all, it's my buddy Greg. He insisted on coming, man. I'm sorry. And he's like, all right, we'll talk about this later. But you got the money? And he's all, yeah. And so Greg hands him $1,000. I'm like, fuck, how am I going to get my $100? You know? And so Greg hands him $1,000. And then the Border Brothers all, I'll be back in about half an hour. And Greg was like, whoa. This is not happening, buddy. How do I know I could trust you with my $1,000? And the Border Brother looked at him, and he looked at me, and he was pissed. And he's like, I got 2 reasons why you can trust me with your $1,000. And Greg's like, yeah, let's see him. And the Border Brother's like, all right, fine, I'll show you. So he reaches into his pocket. He takes out a gun. I'd never even seen a fucking gun before. He takes out a gun, sets it on the hood of his car. There's reason number 1. You need to see reason number 2? And I'm like, nah, dude, that's good with me. And Greg's like, yeah, I want to see reason number 2. And I'm like, fuck. And he's like, all right, I'll show you reason number 2. So he reaches into his other pocket, and he pulls out a wad of cash like this. And he's all, these 9 other dudes trust me with their $1,000. You can trust me with yours. And I'm like, and he's like, okay, go for it. So he takes off, and he's like, I'll be back in half an hour. And so he takes off, and we're just sitting, people watching, because that's what you did before cell phones. You people watched. And we're watching all the people in the bar. People are having a good time. 20 minutes goes by. 30 minutes goes by. 35 minutes goes by. 40 minutes goes by. I see Greg's getting kind of antsy. He's shuffling around in his seat. And I'm like, fuck, right now would be a great time for him to come back. He's not back. Greg is about to say something. Like the silence breaks. Greg's like, hey. And I turn to look at Greg. But right when me and Greg were about to start our conversation, about 200 dudes filed out of the bar into the street in front of us. And we're like, what the fuck's going on? And they were talking loud, and they did not seem happy. And then I realized, oh shit, this big group was forming two groups. One group was all white, and the other group was all Mexican. And I was like, oh, this does not look good. And me and Greg looked at each other, and we're like, hey, do you think these guys are gonna? And right when we said, do you think these guys are gonna? We heard the first, and it was on, you guys. It was a fucking race war in the parking lot, out of O'Malley's. Mexicans and whites just beating the fuck out of each other. I was like, damn, I'm gonna have to fight Greg. And so they're going at it, right? And look, guys, the Mexicans are taking it to the white dudes, right? Like the Mexicans, like it's kind of dead even, but if we're counting numbers, the Mexicans are winning. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm not gonna have to fight Greg. We might take him hostage, but I'm not gonna have to fight him, you know? And so just when it looked like it was over for the white dudes, you guys, out of nowhere, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this, because it was 1991, and this is Placerville, you probably still say it. A fucking midget ran out of the bar dressed like a leprechaun with the fucking belt buckle and the hat and everything. And he starts beating the crap out of every fucking Mexican he can find. And he's like, pop, pop, knocking out Mexicans. And the funny thing was, like, he'd be like, pop, pop, and he'd knock out a Mexican. And he'd turn to the side and he'd be like this. And he'd be doing the fighting Irish thing, right? And he'd go, boom, boom, and he'd knock out another Mexican. And Mexicans were just dropping. I was telling the story the other day, and a friend of mine was like, Jesse, you're fucking lying. I'm like, how am I lying? He's like, how was the fucking midget knocking out Mexicans? I'm like, he was a midget, but they were Mexicans. They weren't much taller than the midget. And so the midget now is just knocking out Mexicans left and right. The whites have just made this huge comeback, and they're bouncing on the Mexicans. And I'm like, fuck, they're going to take me hostage. And then, just when it looked like it was over, I saw two Mexicans leave the group and run to a car, pop open the trunk, and I'm like, oh, this is bad. Yeah, they got the heaters, and they're like, get those fucking putos, which translates to get those fuckers. You guys know. And they took off, and the white dudes took off running, as they should, because there was guns involved. And I thought to myself, they're going to kill the fucking midget, because the midget was behind, because like his feet were smaller. He couldn't keep up. And they just ran off into the night, and they just disappeared in the night. And all of this transpired like in 45 seconds. And we're sitting there now in a silent, empty parking lot, and we're like, what the fuck did we just see? And Greg was like, dude, did that just really happen? I'm like, that fucking leprechaun was beating up Mexicans. Like it was the Zoot Suit riots or something. And so we're sitting there, and then like right when we're like, that really just happened, about 2 streets away, we heard, we heard screeching tires, we heard a car crash, and we heard pop, 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 pop. We heard 5 gunshots. And then we heard silence again. We're like, fuck, what just happened? And then out of nowhere, dude, the border brother came around in his truck. There was fucking steam coming out of the engine. The windshield had bullet holes. The hood was dented. He parked next to us, jumped out, had a trash bag full of weed, and he said, get the fuck out of here. Threw it in our car. I just ran over a leprechaun. Threw the weed in our car, and he took off. He disappeared to Mexico. We kept all 10 pounds of weed, you guys. But listen, as soon as we knew the coast was clear, we found that midget, and we gave him a pound of weed, you guys, because that was the right thing to do. That was the right thing to do. Thank you, thank you. Hey, you guys, my name is Jesse Rivera. You guys ready to keep this show going? All right, all right, all right. Hey, we got a couple more great comics. Now, coming to the stage right now, absolutely one of my best friends in the entire world, the devil himself, Johnny Taylor Jr.
Hey, what's up? One more time for Jesse Rivera. He was like, should I say midget? And I was like, we're in Placerville. Say whatever the fuck you want, man. They don't care. You know, at some point during Jesse's set, it might happen during mine, you might think to yourself, maybe I want to do that. Maybe I want to be a stand-up comedian. And I got to tell you, you can. Anybody can do it. Get 5 minutes together, go to an open mic. Don't get discouraged if it goes poorly the first time. Just keep getting up as much as you can. Really dedicate a large portion of your time and your energy into really chasing your dreams. And if you do that, she's going to leave you. So, prep. So, I like to get married a lot. 3 up, 3 down. I retired the side. After my most recent divorce, I dated. I went on a date with a gal and went to coffee. I thought that was a good first date because you could chat. There's not a lot of distractions. And so we go to this cafe. First thing she says blows my fucking mind. She sits down and she says, "It feels really good to be out." Yeah. Like, where the fuck were you? Like, were you doing time? What the fuck's going on? She's like, "No, it feels good to be on a date." I was like, "Oh, yeah, same." And she says, "Well, I went through a rough stretch recently." I was like, "Okay, well, maybe explain." And she says, "Well, I was drinking quite a bit. And one thing led to another. I ended up doing crystal meth with my son." Yeah. I was like, "Oh, no." That's fucking gross. You have a kid? Disgusting. Should have swiped left. All right, so it's Saturday night in Peeville. Can I do some dark material? Can you guys handle it? All right, cool. I want to talk about anxiety. Who's got that? Anybody? All right, okay, some clapping. That's one person raising their hand. I have it too. I relate hard. I've had it most of my life. I didn't know what it was when I was a kid. I just know I felt weird. But it always presents itself in the same way. It kind of manifests itself in the same manner. It'd always be getting close to my bedtime. It'd be after dark. I'd go into my room. I'd get tucked in. I'd stare into the darkness of my ceiling and also the wall a little bit. I have a lazy eye, so I'd stare up and over, kind of. And not provoked by anything in particular, not triggered by anything in particular. My heart would start pounding. I'd start sweating buckets, and I'd have the same thought over and over again in my head. And the thought is, what am I going to do when my parents die? That's going to be the worst day of my life. How am I going to handle my parents dying? They're everything to me. What am I going to do when they die? And this would happen night after night after night. And now my parents are both dead. So needless to say, that's a huge weight that's been lifted off my shoulders. Can finally catch some fucking Z's. All right, you guys are awful. This is going to be fun. I worked with a squeaky clean headliner recently. You guys know what a clean comic is? They don't swear. Squeaky clean comic doesn't swear, but doesn't do any dark material, no sexual innuendos. I'm a bad fit for this guy. So we have two shows, 8 o'clock show and a 10 o'clock show. And between the two shows, he approaches me in the green room and he's like, "Hey, Johnny, I got to tell you, I think you're a really great comic." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man. That means a lot. Appreciate it." And he says, "You might be too dark for my crowd." And I said, "That's fair. I can do lighter hearted stuff for the second show." And he says, "Do you want me to teach you a lesson?" Fuck yeah. I love lessons. Yeah, go ahead and teach, man. And he says this. He says, "If you're black, you could do jokes about being black. And if you're gay, you could do jokes about being gay. And if you're going to do a joke about AIDS, you should have AIDS." Yeah, it's like, that would have to be an amazing joke for me to go catch AIDS. Not that committed to stand-up comedy. That's what I'm trying to say. That joke used to kill. Now you live with it. Okay. You guys are the worst people I've ever seen. I'll let you know right now, and I'm into it. We're gonna keep going. I work the road a lot, and a lot of comics that work the road, they like to go out and get wasted with fans or with other comics. It's not me. I don't like to do that. I like to get high. I like to get really high. And I like to go to my hotel room, and I do this thing where I just unwind by watching TV, you know. Netflix, yeah? Okay, 2 of you have Netflix. It's $6.99. Get a fucking job. So I'm browsing Netflix. Look into it. This guy. He's like, "I'm a Hulu guy for life." So I'm browsing. I land on Love Is Blind reunion. Can't do it. Can't really fuck with Hannah right now. So I keep browsing through. I land on the We Are the World documentary. Anybody seen that one? I'm the only one. I've been doing this joke for a few months. Nobody's fucking seen it. It was like top 10. I don't even know how. I'm like, this is fake. This is fucking Netflix payola. There's no way. Anecdotally, I know I'm the only one on the planet that's seen it. So, if you're not familiar with We Are the World, it was a charity single that was put out in 1985. And it was everybody that was anybody was part of this, and they raised millions of dollars for this charity called USA for Africa. It was awesome. They tasked Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson with writing the song We Are the World. And so they had several months to do this. And then one of the producers hits up Lionel Richie, and he's like, hey, we're going to record that tomorrow. And he's like, oh, we should probably write that. And you can tell, woof, that song is a piece of shit. So I'm 10 minutes into this thing, and I realize I'm too high to process Michael Jackson. I can't do it. I can't separate the art from the artist. I want to be into it. I want to be like, Mama say, Mama say, Mama kusa. You know what I mean? I want to feel it. But I'm thinking weird shit the whole time he's on screen. So 30 minutes in, I realize I have not paid attention to anything that has happened in this documentary because I've been coming up with a theory on Michael Jackson the whole time. And so I'm going to lay it on you guys. If you're confused, I have several minutes to explain. So be into it. I think Michael Jackson was trying to warn us the whole time through his album titles, okay? Bear with me. Listen, this isn't even a joke, so if you laugh, that's awesome. But if not, I felt like we needed to talk about this. So Michael Jackson's first album as a solo artist, he called Off the Wall, okay? He lobbed us a softball. He was like, hey, I'm fucking weird. I'm off the wall. I'm a weird guy, okay? First step. Second album, he called Thriller. He was like, hey, I'm scary. I'm scary and I'm weird at the same time. He called his next one Bad. I'm bad. He said that hella times. It's like trying to nail it into our heads. Like, I might be a bad person, actually. Let's see how this unfolds. I'm not making this up. He called his next one Dangerous. I'm dangerous. He even had a song called Smooth Criminal. And then, of course, his follow-up to that, which was, I want to fuck your kids, can I? Aww. All right, so 5 of you laughed at that. And the rest of you are pedophile sympathizers. So figure that shit out on your own time. Look at the man in the mirror, if you will. I got to be honest, as I do my travels doing stand-up, I'm constantly on the hunt for a one-person applause break, so thank you for that. I like just the one person that's extra into it. I made a mistake, Placerville. I ate at Subway. Subway is the most unintentionally depressing place on the planet to eat, because the ghost of Jared haunts the hallways. They act like we forgot. They're just like, hey, we got Barkley, Steph Curry. I was like, nah, dog, this is Jared's house. Like, I have not forgotten. You know, Jared got 14 years. 14. He was like, oh, just my type. Oh, did I find the line, Placerville? Okay, I'll hop right over it like a tiny demon. I don't give a fuck. Oh, yeah. It's a depressing place for a guy to eat, you know? Get your sandwich back to your table, you realize that's what 6 inches actually looks like. It's like, oh my God. Didn't know it was that long. And my God, the girth. One time a gal stood up, she's like, I work at Subway. I was just like, I'm so sorry, that's a really shitty job. And she says, those sandwiches you're talking about, they're actually only 5 inches. I was like, fuck you, bitch. It's worse than I thought. I want to talk about the greatest week of my elementary school experience. It's the week the Challenger launched. Um, it's that week ended weird for sure, but the week leading up to it was hella tight because we didn't have any homework or schoolwork. All we did was learn about NASA and the space program. They even surveyed my class. 29 out of the 30 kids in my class said they wanted to be astronauts when they grow up. One kid wanted to be a chef. Outlier. I think his dad was like a crew chief at Arby's. But the best part about it was the day of the launch. We had to go to class 2 hours early. They were going to wheel one of those TVs in, and we get to watch the launch live on television. So in preparation for that, a lot of us kids had made paper patches that said NASA. We taped it to our shirts, taped it to our sleeves. One kid wore a helmet to school. He kind of always wore a helmet, but he also did that day. Just kind of slapped a sticker on the side. And so we get into class, and I'm sitting right next to my best friend Kyle, and they wheel one of those TVs in, and the Challenger launches, right? And most of us just kind of clapped. One kid had started kind of crying at the wonder of science. One kid got up, started dancing like Michael Jackson. It was appropriate in '86. And so it's pretty far in the air. It's up there for a minute or so. I don't know how long. It's up there for a minute. And then the Challenger explodes. And here's the thing. Nobody warned us that that was in the realm of possibility that could explode. So we're just like looking up at it, and we're just like, I guess it just kind of comes apart there at the end. We thought it was part of the show. And then my friend Kyle's looking up, and he says this. He goes, confetti. Which, looking back, is the funniest thing I've ever heard anybody say as a tragedy was unfolding in real time. He said confetti. And then my teacher goes, that's not confetti, Kyle. And I'm like, what is it? And I swear to God, my teacher goes, bodies. I know, I was there. I was like, can I change what I want to be when I grow up? I think I want to be a chef. I'll work at Arby's. That sounds tight. If you can believe it, that wasn't even the funniest thing Kyle said that year. It wasn't. We used to have story time in our class every Tuesday, and we'd sit in a semicircle on the floor. Me and Kyle would always sit right up front, and we'd have a local high school student. Her name was Miss Lisa. She would come in, she'd be like a TA, and she'd read to us for an hour. It's the best part of the week. And so Tuesday comes around, Miss Lisa comes into the class to read. Me and Kyle sitting right up front. She's very modestly dressed. She's wearing like a denim skirt past her knees. But when she gets up on the stool to read to us, she reveals like a 1/4 inch of her underwear. And Kyle says, holy shit, Miss Lisa, we can see your dick. I think about that once a week for like the last 40 years. I do. This is weird. It's like such a funny little room. You know what I like? It's very DIY, and I don't think it's supposed to be. But we got there, and the person running the booth was like, "Hey, once you guys start, I'm leaving." We're like, "I hope this works. I hope if there's any mic problems, we're projecting." I got to say this. I'm not gay, but I could be in a pinch. I learned that about myself. I could. I watched Magic Mike alone. Just decided to watch it on my own volition. Nobody was even on the screen yet, just like the credits, and Channing Tatum's name appeared on the screen, and I said out loud alone to myself, he's in this? I didn't know he was in this. I got so excited that he was gonna be in it. The girl I was dating at the time opened the front door. I reacted like I was robbing the place. I just dove under the coffee table. She's like, what's wrong? I was like, nothing. She's like, you watching Magic Mike? And I said, no. She's like, it's on. And I said it was an accident. She's like, this is on demand. Like you had You had to press buttons to get here. Like, what's the fucking end game for this? I'm not gay. In fact, I'd only have sex with a guy for 2 reasons. 2. First reason, save a baby's life. All right, first off, you guys are looking at me weird, and if you wouldn't do it, you're a monster and I'm a hero. So I think we have enough rapport, possibly. I want you guys to imagine in your head a baby. Has everybody got that? On a conveyor belt, okay? There's a caveat to this. The baby has to be cute. I'm not sucking any dicks to save an ugly baby. So I want you to imagine an adorable little baby on a conveyor belt. And then over on this side, there's a bandsaw going full throttle, okay? So there's a baby over here. There's a bandsaw over here. Do you know what happens when a baby hits the bandsaw? Confetti, dude. So the baby's here, bandsaw's over here. There's several bad guys just kind of milling about. One of the bad guys just starts cranking this lever, okay? And then the baby starts slowly rolling towards this bandsaw. It's not going fast, but it's getting there. And then another guy has me kind of cornered. And he's like, dude, start sucking some dicks, or this baby's dust. What am I going to do? You know? It's a quandary. You know? Show me the dick. You know? I want to see what I'm working with first. Here's the thing. I might not be very good at it. I've never done it before. But I know what boys like. I know what guys want. Here's the thing. Who do I have to give an average to possibly excellent blowjob to? I'm saving this baby's life, you know? And then the second reason would be if Channing Tatum asked me to. Wouldn't have to ask nice. In fact, I prefer he didn't, if I'm being honest. Take control, Channing. You guys remember COVID? Oh my God. COVID was weird because like you went through a week of missing people that you saw every day, and then like week 2 you're like, I could never see that person again, I'd probably be fine. Let me tell you something. If you ever checked on a friend during COVID and you asked them how they were holding up, and they replied with, I'm thriving, cut that person out of your life. That person's fucking toxic. They're the worst people. But COVID did teach me to compartmentalize things more, putting things in boxes. And I remember after shit's like the vaccine came out and shit started opening up, I was so excited that I got to do stand-up again. But more than that, I was like, I'm going to say yes to more shit. There's too many times where I'm like, when shit was open, where be like, come out and do this. I'm like, no, I'll just stay at home. I didn't want to stay at home anymore. So I went to a music festival right after stuff opened up called City of Trees. Anybody go to that? It was in Sacramento. That's an adjacent town down the road. If you guys are familiar, we don't know where we're at. So I didn't even go on purpose, went by accident. I'm friends with the band Portugal the Man, and I get texted by John, the singer of that band. He's like, dude, we're doing this festival tomorrow night. Bring out a friend, come out, watch the show. We can hang out after. I'm like, oh, sounds awesome. So I bring my friend Daniel, and as we're driving to the venue, Daniel says, do you like the headliners tonight? And I was like, I don't know who's headlining. Who is it? He says, oh, it's the band Incubus. I said, no, I don't like that band at all. I fucking hate that band, if I'm being honest. And I thought about it, and I was like, actually, I like that one part in that one song where the guy goes, I like that part. He's like, oh, you like the song Drive? And I said, no. Hate it. I just like that one part where he does that little thing. And I'm like, that's an older song, right? And he says, yeah, that song came out nearly 20 years ago. I was like, wow, 20 years ago? I was like, well, how do you think that part of the song is going to sound when he does it tonight? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, that guy's old as fuck. Like, do you think he's going to be able to do that part with the same luster that he had as a guy in his 20s? He's like, yeah, I do. He keeps himself fit. I was like, we'll see. All I know is this. I no longer gave a fuck about that festival. I became fixated on seeing that one part of that one song live to see if the guy could pull it off. And I passed it to Daniel. He's obsessed with it too. It's all we could think about.